A few months ago, I realized that going on crackbook would just be futile and cause great sadness for me. It would be futile because if I'm starting a conversation with, can you imagine being a parent and having your child being torn away from you? Or can you imagine sitting in a car and having your windows blown out by these masked men? Can you imagine being a priest doing a peaceful protest and being hit by a pellet gun? Can you imagine if, or historically speaking, or statistically speaking, or our laws say it was futile? Because now I realize, sadly, that we are actually surrounded by idiots, ignorant people, or just plain racists. Because if you continue to support MAGA, you have lost all sense of humanity. Because even without knowing the facts, anyone would be able to look at what's going on and know that it is wrong and that it is illegal what these ICE thugs are doing. And most of you don't know this, but undocumented people account for approximately 4.8% of our total population. And guess what? They do pay taxes. Even if they get paid under the counter, under the table, that is, the federal government provides them with an ITN number or the individualized taxpayer number. And this money, which accounts for close to $100 billion, goes directly to Medicaid, directly to Social Security, directly to SNAP, of which none of these programs they qualify for. Despite Trump and the MAGA nuts out there claiming that undocumented people want to get your insurance, they don't qualify for any of these programs, nor do they qualify to vote, nor are the Democrats trying to get undocumented people to vote. That is a lie.
We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
Leave them the fuck alone. Because I assure you, if you, white MAGA, go and do your DNA test relative to a Mexican or me, I'll show you my DNA test, my family's DNA test. I know that I belong here way more than you do. I know that they belong here way more than you do. So get your facts straight and get your history together. But I know they're burning the books. They're tearing down history. What undocumented people do is put food on your table, pick your fruits, build your homes, take care of your children at very, very low wages. And based on studies, American and proof, because no one's out there in the fields right now, Americans will not do the jobs that undocumented people do. They just won't. Meanwhile, your dear leader has built an army or a military organization that rivals most militaries around the world. Its budget is bigger than Israel's budget. And we actually pay for Israel too. And they provide free healthcare and free education for their citizens so that they could turn around and commit genocide against the people they colonized. And speaking of criminals, do you know who causes over 75% of mass shootings here in this country? White men. Why don't you take care of your white men and their anger and their racism? But what happens when a militia goes up to a state capital, say in Michigan, and tries to kidnap the governor there for trying to impose COVID policy so we protect each other? What happens when an insurrectionist mob goes to their state capital and tries to overturn an election? What happens to them? Oh, they're released from jail and they're given jobs in ICE. Now, you may want to say, well, look at our prison system. They're overwhelmed by Black and brown people. These are criminals. Black and brown people are criminals, just like Trump says, right? Well, no. The truth of the matter is that the policing system and our Department of Justice has been based on racist policies. In fact, nationally speaking, if you have 6 white men and 6 black men committing the same crime, 6 black men will go to jail while only one white man will go to jail. And the black men will be given harsher sentences. In the backward state of Texas, for every 9 black men, only 1 white man will go to jail for the same crime. Even if you have the same amount of of men and given, of course, harsher sentences. Tragically, even though gun violence is the #1 cause of death for our children, and even though it was a gun that killed Charlie Kirk, there are still no sensible gun laws in place. Mexico states that 70 to 90% of the guns confiscated from the cartels in Mexico come from the United States. And over 75% of people arrested at the border trying to import fentanyl from Mexico are U.S. citizens. So if the U.S. really wanted to do something about the cartels, if the U.S. really wanted to protect our children, we would have some sensible gun laws in place. The Second Amendment was codified and implemented so that white people could get guns and protect their property. Who was that? What was that property? Black slaves. So they could run after the black slaves. Once black people were emancipated and freed, these same gun-wielding white people developed police departments so they could continue to terrorize and brutalize not only the black community, but subsequent brown community on their own land that the U.S. stole. But when did gun laws actually start to be implemented here in the U.S. For safety? It was when a group of black people in California, in Oakland, organized, tired of the police brutality in their community. They said, we're going to organize, we're going to not only protect ourselves, we're going to feed our children, we're going to educate our children, we're going to create self-sustaining communities of black people because we're tired of this shit. And yeah, they weaponized themselves because that was legal. At that time, the Black Panther Party, just FYI, Reagan was the governor of California. What did he do? Alongside with the National Rifle Association, the NRA, they got together and they not only implemented the first gun laws policies meant to disarm the black people, they also went ahead and killed the Black Panther Party leaders and or forced them to leave the United States. That's what happens. So it is not the immigrants that are only 4.8% of the total population here in the country that are causing problems. It is not the immigrants that are stealing your Medicaid or your SNAP benefits or killing your kids. It's actually this government that continues to lie to you, to your face. It is so sad that we are out here fighting for crumbs just to get health care, to put food on our table. And you turn around and you abuse and you denigrate and you dehumanize the most vulnerable communities in our country. So let's get our facts straight and our history together. The Second Amendment was made for who? Codified for who? For the white man, for the white people, to keep black people in their place. It was true back then and it's true today. And to instill fear in the communities of color so we don't speak up and speak out against the brutality that exists, the systemic racism that exists in this country. And they want you, poor white people, to continue to believe their lies so you can turn your hatred and your anger and your racism against people of color rather than those billionaire thieves that are in the White House, rather than the corporations, the pharmaceuticals, the insurance company, the mafia insurance companies, the companies that keep you from making a living wage. Good luck to you because we're losing everything and it's your racism that is feeding into it.